So data insights or maybe lack thereof in many businesses is the number one obstacle to affecting change.
Yeah.
And you can't hit what you can't see. And maybe to juxtapose their strategies and tactics, one can always do some A/B testing. That's kind of a tactical response. But strategy is an entirely different subject.
Yeah.
It covers a series of subjects and micro strategies that you're going to apply to affect change. So how do you use customer data in your practice to shape voice of customer strategy?
I think you have to look at it from two lenses. One is gathering the data post-event, which most of us, that's the traditional way of doing it. But gathering the insights and information post-event to understand, well, how well did we do in the customer eyes? And this is bigger than just voice of the customer. I mean, again, we talked about like behavioral data earlier. This is where you have to be well integrated and connected with the cross-functional leaders and departments that have relevant data that, whenever you combine everyone's insights, it's much more powerful. So how do you work with those other departments and teams around understanding after something, how did we do, what did we learn, and how do we continuously improve? And then being able to use that history to then inform real-time and future business decisions. And so that is how I think influencing strategy can really be a very comprehensive and successful thing. And again, I'll share another story. Working at a financial services company, I led CX, and I hadn't been there very long. And I'm sitting in a meeting, and CX was important, and kind of what I talked about earlier, the charts and graphs. We were kicking off all the meetings talking about it, but I was always talking about what was happening in the rear view mirror, and there wasn't really a lot of engagement from the leadership team. And they didn't ask a lot of questions, or it would be a question like, oh, I see that 2 weeks ago, there was a spike in performance. What happened? Which would then scurry the team members to go do a bunch of analytics that, frankly, who cares at that point? It doesn't matter. It's in the past. Nobody's going to, but that's the cycle and behavior the team was in. It was explaining away the past. Then, and I was like, I've been doing this a long time. This is not working. Like, we're not driving change and influence. So sitting in those meetings, I would watch what did get everybody involved. And what got everybody involved was, as soon as the finance guy brought up the forecast for the quarter or the year, everybody talked about headwinds and tailwinds. Everybody was super engaged and active, right? That's where the momentum was. And and kind of also at that time, I had been doing, again, I was new. I was doing this road show with the leaders and talking to them. And one of my stakeholders, he ran the contact center. And I was talking to him, just trying to, where's CX with you? How do you use it? What's going on? And this was before everything was online and cloud-based. He literally pulls out of his briefcase one of those big, like 3-5-inch binders, and he drops it on the table and he starts thumbing through it. And it's just full of reports. And he's like, CX, Michelle? He's like, see all this? I have no idea how my business is doing. I have all of these reports. I have no idea how my business is really doing. And he's like, CX report? Yeah, that's page 86. Great. It's in my book. I don't know anything. You help me figure that out. I'm listening. And that was kind of the gauntlet thrown. I'm listening to how I'm showing up in these meetings, which is all they were asking for. Like, I was doing everything right. And I'm like, this is going nowhere. So went back to the team and I'm like, all right, we are building a forecast for CX. We're going to put aside our priorities and we are going to build a forecast for CX. So how do we begin to predict? We built our model, and I started showing up with, it looked like the financial waterfall chart. Yes. Headwinds, tailwinds, current target, gap to goal, what's going on. And it was amazing. In a matter of months, what went from me getting no conversation aside from explain that blip 3 weeks ago became, wait a second, before we make that next business decision, the COO would say, Michelle, what does the model say is going to happen to both our CSAT scores, as well as we put a financial number in with it, the financial, and they would make different decisions. Did they always make a different decision? No. But I told them, I said, look, my job is to help give you enough information about customer impact and cost of servicing that you can make a more informed decision than you did before. So one example was we changed chat vendors. The deal was already done. Finance signed off, price, everything was right. And then we ran it through the model and we saw what the impact was going to be it was actually going to drive repeat calls because their resolution rates for that particular chat, it was it was a cheaper for the first, but it required many more interactions. So it was actually a more expensive choice. So they didn't do that one. And that was when it was like, oh, okay, that is how you can inform and drive strategy with the data. But that is a very different way of thinking than how traditional CX leaders are thinking. They're still stuck in the explaining away the past and not creating systems and processes to activate real time and inform future decisions and bring value and be invited to those conversations, because typically they're not.
That's very proactive. It's not reactive. And one thing I really like about it is that you correlated voice of the customer to financial data, which was at the forefront of where everyone was invested. And so now you had a language that was shared.
Which is a big gap today for, I think, so many CX leaders, is they're talking in terms of, I'm going to call it the soft metrics, the SAT, the NPS. Organizations do not make major business decisions based on NPS and satisfaction. They make major business decisions based on financial impact. And you have got to look at how you can leverage what you're doing and the insights you have with what else is happening. What are those other data sources and teams that when you combine forces, it is so much more powerful. So rather than sticking, oftentimes CX sits in the contact center, sits in operations, and has no interaction with marketing, no interaction with procurement, no interaction with IT. You have got to break those barriers down and say, what is it that you know? Here's what I know. What could we know together that would inform what we're doing next as a company to hit our targets, our strategic priorities?
So you just really kind of unpacked a success story right there in terms of how to bring voice of customer into the organization where there's collaboration around that particular topic.